So I said recently I went to a couple of library sales. And while I got some really good books there, I think the most interesting part of my journey was I caught someone trying to scam the local library. Who tries to scam a local library? I'm going to get into the book haul in a minute. For now, I just want to tell this story. We got to the library sale about 5 minutes after they opened. It was already packed, which is fine. It's great. And when I go to library sales now, because I've been scarred from previous terrible experiences, I'm always looking for the book scanners and the resellers that do scummy stuff because they suck and they ruin the event for everyone else. They're like piling books the wrong way, standing in front of the table so you can't get to them while they rapidly scan things or dig through, piling things under the tables, and then berating people that so much as look at the piles. And then, also picking books out of other people's piles when they realize it's something of value. I've seen everything. It's terrible. So yes, I've been scarred. And so I'm always looking out for things. So I start grabbing books, just picking through the science fiction and fantasy stuff. I always go there first. And then my wife points out that there's an area that has more expensive books. And I talked about them in a previous book haul. I picked up one of James Holland's World War II books, one of Tom Holland's Roman history books, and a collection of detective stories that take place in Harlem, which is super cool. And while I was over there, I looked at everything. They had like a mix of newer stuff that was donated from an estate. And then on a little rolly rack, they had a couple of Folio Society collections and some rare older books. And each one had a price tag on it. I'd been looking for King Arthur stuff recently, and I saw like a King Arthur folio set that intrigued me, and it was $25, and I almost grabbed it because I was like, that is a really good deal. The more I dug into it, they weren't really the King Arthur stories I wanted to read. I want to read more of like the T.H. White and Mary Stuart stuff. So I just left it there and I go back to browsing. Periodically, I look around to see if there's any turds ruining the book sale. And I see someone grab that folio set along with another book off that rack, and they moved off to the side and they pulled out their phone. I'm like, okay, they're checking the price. Well, I take my huge stack to the front and they give me a box and they set it in the back with my name on it. And I go back to browsing. So I get this stack all together. And I go to the front and I go to grab my box. And as I'm walking past the counter where they're checking out, I hear one of the volunteers say, "Where did you find this?" And I kind of look over and I see the folio set. And the guy just kind of like mumbles and kind of points to the back. And I was like, oh, that's that guy that was checking the price on his phone. And I hear her say, oh, well, okay, I guess $6. And she's like, well, let's start this over then, since I've got to recalculate this. And I heard $6 and I like turned and I looked. And the tag wasn't on the thing. And I was like, that's $25. And the guy like whipped around and looked up at me. And the volunteer looked at me with like a questioning look. And I said, yeah, it was on the rack over there. It was $25. I was going to pick it up, but it's not the Arthurian stuff I want to read. And then I just walked away. I went to go check out at one of the other things. As I'm walking away, I hear the lady say, well, it's $25. So do you still want it? And I hear him mumbling something. And then she calls over like the, I guess, supervisor of the volunteers to see what she wants to do about it. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like so annoyed that someone was ripping off a sale ran by volunteers to fund their local library. And knowing what it is worth, he was already going to make a 100% profit flipping it online. It's just such ridiculous behavior. I just thought I'd share that story right off the bat. I guess we can get into a book haul now. I got some good stuff, I promise. I picked up The Great Book of Amber by Roger Zelazny. I already own all of these in hardcover. One of them is signed. But I couldn't say no to another copy because this will be a good gift. I mean, it's kind of ratty, it's worn out, but it's still readable. And, that's all that matters. CJ Cherry is on my short list for authors I really want to read from like her generation. But I haven't found anything I've liked yet. I've only read her short fiction, and most of it was in the Thieves World collections. So I'm not going to judge her ability as a writer based on a shared world anthology. So I picked up Cytine, and this is just an awesome trade paperback, and I wasn't going to say no for $1. At the sale, hardcovers were $2, paperbacks were $1. And I picked up a bunch of like fantasy stuff that's like in the middle of a series or a trilogy that takes place later in a series. I got book 2 in The Gods of Blood and Powder by Brian McClellan, Wrath of Empire. I've read the first Powder Mage trilogy and I really enjoyed it. And so I definitely want to give these a try. Michael J. Sullivan has also been someone I've been interested in reading. I know absolutely nothing about his writing. And this book is the first book in a series, and it even says in the jacket that I don't have to have read the other stuff to appreciate this. So I'll probably start with this and see where it goes. Found Wildcards books. Can't say no to Fort Freak, hardcover of a later Wildcards novel. I will slowly collect all of them, and I will read them all. As long as they don't end up being horrific turds. Maybe they'll just get a very short leash as I get deeper into the series. And of course, this is like book, 24 or something in Ellie Modesitt Jr.'s Saga of Recluse. I've read the first 16 of them. They're just fun. I mean, they're not earth-shattering. I just happen to really enjoy his writing, and it's one of those authors that's just really easy for me to read. I don't know if anyone else has this, but you really synchronize your thought patterns or something with the way someone writes, and you can just burn through their books. And so, yeah, I do that with his works, and I plan on doing it again. I want to start collecting them all again. I used to have like the first 14 in mass market paperbacks, but they were falling apart and I wasn't even reading them. So I ended up just selling those. I'm going to slowly try to accrue hardcovers over time. Speaking of authors that you just vibe with for some reason and they're easy to read, I was always a huge fan of Harry Turtledove's alternate history. And this book is everything I want in alternate history. The House of Daniel by Harry Turtledove, a novel of wild magic, the Great Depression, and a semi-pro ball. By that they mean baseball. It's like, oh, cool. Everything I enjoy in life. Well, not the Great Depression. I don't enjoy the Great Depression, but it's an interesting setting for a urban fantasy novel. So I'll be checking that out. That sounds cool. I've been meaning to read Frankenstein for a very long time. This is the 1831 edition, I think, but it has like a collation with the 1818 text. If any of you in the comments are Frankenstein enjoyers and you can tell me what the difference is between the editions and which one I should read, that would be great. This one's just cool because not only is it a beautiful Penguin Classics, it's a hardcover, which I didn't know existed. And then I looked at the back and yeah, it's got permabound on the back. Permabound is really cool. I can't afford their books because I'm not a library, but you can buy books that they take and they reinforce. And you know, this thing's probably gonna last me forever. It's super exciting. I have what my wife and I refer to as a Penguin Classics fetish. I can't say no when I see one for a decent price. But I'm learning to say no because some of the translations aren't the best ones. So I put those back and then I add the good translations to my wish list and I pick them up eventually. The last thing I picked up at that library sale is an absolute chonker of a book. This thing's almost 1,300 pages. Jerusalem by Alan Moore. I know nothing about this book other than it is well liked by quite a few people, and that's it. And I'm going to keep it that way. I'm probably going to listen to it even though it's like a 60-hour audiobook. So yeah, after that library sale, I had a week to wait for another library sale, and I picked up some really interesting stuff there too. And so we're going to get right into it. This was a lobby library sale, and they do that one 6 months after they do their big library sale. So they have like a mini little convention area at my local library. So they hold a big sale there. And then 6 months later, they kind of pull some stuff out or any recent donations and they do a sale in the lobby. The one that's in the little convention area, you have to be a friend of the library. So you pay for a membership. And I think it's like $15 for families or $20 for families. I don't know. But the money goes to help my local library. So I don't care. And you get first dibs. You get to go in a day before everyone else. And you get to just take your time and browse, and scanners are banned, so no one's there trying to retail arbitrage the crap out of the books, and it's just great. That sale is where I started my book club edition collection. I went in there and they had almost an entire table of just science fiction and fantasy that was from one donated collection, and it was fantastic. I think I got 40 books or something, and they were like $1 a piece. This sale was the lobby sale, so it was smaller, but it was still really good. For some reason, I decided to buy an entire box of books about journalism. I really only wanted like 2 books in there, but I knew the rest of them I could trade in at my local used bookstore or donate them somewhere. And I got coupons at that sale that I didn't know about until I went to check out. And that's the reason I went and picked up the box, because it kind of offset what I was spending enough that it justified me picking up this box. I got a book called Writing News for Broadcast, and while I'm not a broadcaster or a journalist, it has some really interesting guides for something like YouTube. It gives you like colloquialisms to avoid, ways to phrase things, how to avoid cliches, stuff like that. The other one I picked up was investigative reporting, and I think this is like a textbook or something. And this is just a really cool copy. I had another copy in there of the exact same book, and it was a second edition, but it was incredibly ratty. So I'm like, go with the first one. It can't have changed too much. This investigative reporting book, I'll probably skim it. Just look at some interesting things. What I like doing is there's this section I just flipped open, techniques. I like being a more informed consumer of the news. If I find something in there that just kind of helps me understand how news is made, it's worth the whatever couple bucks it cost me to get. I don't know about you, but it always drives me nuts when I read an article or watch like a news segment about something I know a lot about, and they're just incredibly wrong in every single thing they state in the article. And I'm like, how can you be this wrong? And then I think, wait, if they're this wrong about something I know about, how wrong are they about things I don't know about? I'm not trying to say the news is all lies or anything, but it's always just so jarring to be like, oh, wow, you covered this subject I'm well versed on, and you couldn't be more incorrect. Let's get back to something fun. By something fun, I mean a post-apocalyptic novel. This is The Stand by Stephen King, which everyone's heard of. Stephen King made them stop printing the original version once the new one came out. So these are incredibly rare. We'll see how it goes upon a reread. I read the extended and uncut version a while back, and I loved it. And if this one is just a little tighter and just the same other than that, be great. Now, I mentioned my book club edition addiction. That's not easy to say. And I picked up Gateway by Frederick Pohl. I have only read like a short story from Frederick Pohl, but I plan on reading more. And of course, I wasn't going to leave these beautiful book club editions behind. Beyond the Blue Event Horizon, which is a sequel to Gateway. And then the Annals of the Hichi. And look at that font. It hurts my eyes in person. I don't know if it does it on camera. And then Hichi Rendezvous. I think this is like a trilogy or something, so I'm going to have to find the first book in a book club edition, and then I'll have a beautiful matching set, and that'd be great. As I said, I'm not going to turn down some vintage science fiction book club edition hardcovers, especially considering these books are 250 pages each, so they'll be fun little reads, especially between giant tomes. Picked up Robert Silverberg, The Face of the Waters. Initially, I wasn't going to grab this, and then I saw it was a first edition, first printing, and then I saw that it was about boats, and we love us some sailing around here. So it'll be interesting when I finally get to it. You know, if I don't, I'll end up just selling it to my local used bookstore. Speaking of selling to my local used bookstore, I picked up some stuff from there that upgraded my current collection. So the ones that were the older versions, I put in a box and I took to my local used bookstore along with some of those journalism books and a few other things that I had laying around the house. I got $52, which fueled the next book haul. So yeah, keep an eye out for that in about a week. That book haul is incredible. Speaking of incredible, picked up Dan Simmons' Flashback. I haven't read this, but I love Dan Simmons and I plan on collecting everything he's written and slowly working my way through them. And this just sounds awesome. It takes place in the future, and everyone's addicted to this drug that allows them to relive their favorite memories. And so you've got people that are just kind of sitting around on this drug, reminiscing about the old times instead of living a fulfilling life now. People would never do that right now. They never obsess with the past and how much better it was than the present. So this will be an interesting read because it's a detective story, and your boy loves detective stories. Yeah, that's it. It was quite an eventful pair of library sales. Stopped someone from ripping off a library and got way more books than I needed. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or are interested in them. Love to talk about them. I've got other book hauls if you're here for the book hauls, and they won't be ending anytime soon. Thanks for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.